Alright, should we get back into it? The Disruptor's Flute. So I think that's the Pithing Needle. 2 mana flash artifact. And it comes into play, or as it comes into play, not a trigger, you choose a card name. Spells with the chosen name cost 3 more to cast. Activated abilities of source with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So it's a 2 mana Pithing Needle, and it also makes spells more expensive. So you can play it in response to a Planeswalker or a Yogg. You get to see, which is the downside of Needle, is it's either reactive and they got to use it, or you have to play preemptively and you could guess wrong, or they can deal with it. It's Timmy says this was pretty good in Spike's Dingo stream. Yeah, it does seem like a much better Needle. It's also really good against the Cascade spells, right? They cast their Cascade spell and you just flash that in, and unless they have 3 extra mana, they can't cast it. Seems like a really good card. Against Titan, you can just name Titan, which is like their expensive card that they kind of need to cast. Urza Saga, Planeswalker, Yogg, just kind of crazy hate card, really. Not sure you can main deck it. You've got decks like what, Prowess, not going to be very good against. Even against deck like Omnath, they can deal with it pretty easily. Not sure. Let's see. Let's see which deck kind of don't care about it. Ragda Scam doesn't care about that card much. Something like Domain Zoo, it's not going to care about that card much. Teamer Prowess probably not care about that card much. So, not sure it's going to see a ton of main deck play. Maybe if you're playing some kind of control deck, you can play one of some mid-range control deck in the main, but kind of loose. But pretty solid card overall. Seems like a strong sideboard card. So it's good versus Titan and Ring decks. Yeah, pretty good. It's good enough to main deck though. It does cover, it seems like it would cover a lot of ground. What's it called? Disruptor's Flute. I don't mind giving it like a 6 or a 7. I like strong sideboard card, potentially. Maybe a 6. 6.5. What do people think? Good against Cascade, good in response to Planeswalkers and Creature. Let's give it a 6.5. Should I add... Because he copy-pasted, I think, quote-unquote notes, but it's not really notes. Alright. Idol of the False Gods. I'm assuming the card's not very good. Solar Transformer. 2 mana, enters tapped. You get free energy, and it's a mana rock. You could play it on turn 1 with the Ugin's lands, and then play a ring on turn 2. I sound very loud and distorted. It's the same issue as yesterday. Maybe I should have restarted my desktop. Is it that bad? Is it worse than yesterday? People weren't complaining too much yesterday. I already have the gain on the lowest, and I can just turn down the sound. Better now, maybe? Or does it still get distorted when I... That's better. Okay, I just turned the sound down on OBS. Okay, so, I mean, worse than a lot of mana rocks you have in Modern, but better if you use the energy. It is kind of bad that just gets swept away if you play the white sweeper, the white energy sweeper. So I'm not sure that card's going to see play. It's in a Marvel deck. Just ramp into Marvel. I wonder if Marvel can really be playable or not. Should we give it... Should we rate it? Should we give it a 4? Just in case. Solar Transformer. I guess I'll rate it. I'll give it a 4. Meaning it's probably bad, but if there's an energy deck, could be good in that. Alright, the Vexing Bubble. 1 mana artifact. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. 1 tap, sack, draw cards. Obviously good against Cascade spells, good against Griefs. It's just any spell. It is for both players. Cascade, free spells, the elementals, force of negation, the flares, the packs, the raptor, the Urza's bubbles, 0 mana creatures. Who doesn't get screwed by that card? Yogg? Maybe I'll wait by the point of the XLS order them by color and alphabetically. I'm just thinking if there's some decks you just want to play, you could play 4 in the main deck maybe. I might play Bubble in Coffers. No need to play Profane Tutor. Counter Scourge of Calling? Yeah, they do have to spend mana on it, I guess. Alright, the player's in shambles right now. Welcome to the chat. My name is Called. Glad you found the stream. It does seem like an amazing sideboard cards and decent saga target. And if you just feel like you have a tough matchup against decks with free spells, I mean, this is ordered, but also you don't get to see like which one we went for already. It's like, I don't know. In some ways, it's like there's a lot of colors and stuff too. I kind of like the other one more, but this one's like too much. And there's all the cards we're not trading too. So I don't know. This also counts for a plot. Is plot in Modern though? Like any plot cards in Modern? I mean, this card seems like insane sideboard card at the very least. Potential main deck card. I would give it maybe. We've rated the blue counter spell for the replicate one an 8, so I feel like this should maybe get an 8. I don't know if people think that's too high. Bubble plus the white bird that plots open spell is kind of a combo. But that's nice. Not that card is very modern playable, but could be a sideboard tech, like you board into bubbles plus that card in some matchups, or we just play both in the main and find other ways to make, I guess bubble works with delay too. It's not a card that sees a ton of play, but if you're playing Teferi and now you're playing bubble and then you can delay a spell, which is like just fancy counterspell, I guess. It makes them 2 cast. That doesn't work then. Okay. Only in paper. Alright, I'll give it an 8. Alright, Winter Moon. One of the cards Spike had in his top tier, not broken, but just below. Kind of hard to evaluate. Don't really have that kind of effect in Modern at all. 2-mana artifact, player can't untap more than one non-basic land during their untap step. So as long as they have a few basics, it's not super impactful. It is decent against Tron. Eldrazi Tron, all the Tron decks. Good with fetch lands if you're playing a lot of basics. Good against the main zoo. Good against most decks, but also most modern decks do play their own lot of non-basics. Could be a sideboard card in mono black Necro. It does seem high impact in the right deck. Trail on seeing every card in the lens of the Coffers deck. I love it. Yeah, I could see a mid-range deck. Mid-range deck liking this, control deck liking this. Maybe even an aggressive deck, just monocolored aggressive deck. Like Mono Green Elf. Gets to play a card like Winter Moon. Maybe I guess they have a lot. You might want to play some non-basics, but Merfolk, yeah, Merfolk had stat plus the Harbinger. If you have Blood Moon out, this card does nothing right. I don't know. Alright, what are we rating that card? A 5 only? Okay. Card seems so busted. 5 or 6. Seems like it could be good in the right deck. I mean, a lot of modern decks want to start with 2 non-basics on turn 1 and 2. But you could also be down a card and 2 mana if you just fetch a few basics. It doesn't seem that hard to play around. It's not like a Blood Moon that can totally shut you down and completely mana screw you. Under both moons, every non-basic is a non-basic mountain that doesn't untap. Alright, that would have been my instinct, because I think they're still non-basics, right? Alright, the lands now. The cycle of archways, or whatever, they're not all archways, I guess. The blue one's just bad, right? Archway of Innovation enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island. It taps for a blue. Blue tab. The next spell you cast this turn has Improvise, meaning your artifacts can help cast that card. You can cast an artifact to pay for 1. Like, surely the artifact decks would rather have plenty of other lands, right? The red one doesn't seem playable either. Taps for red, enters tapped unless you have a mountain, and then you can pay red and tap, exert it, meaning it doesn't untap. You add 2 red, so you 2 red mana for 2 red mana, you're not gaining mana. If death mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains haste until end of turn. Could have maybe made it uncountable and haste. I mean, does Titan want that card maybe? Can Titan fit that card in? The red one is just free to play 1/2. Ah, yeah, it's the good old free. In which deck is it free? You can spend a 2 mana on 2 creatures. It's kind of cool. I mean, a lot of the good red creatures already have haste. And Goblins has the Goblin lands, you have Cavern. Might come into play tapped a lot. It doesn't work with a lot of the other special lands. I'm not going to bother rating it. Fetch lands. The common lands don't have an application, right? Or do they? That cycle of lands. Taps for colorless, comes into play untapped. You can sack it to search one of 3 basics. There's the full, there's all the 3 color combos, and it has cycling. Popper, yeah. So we're rating modern. I wonder if there's some deck, corner case deck, that wants exactly that effect. I mean, in Titan, right? If you have Amulet, the land comes into play tap, so you get to untap it, or you have the choice. But everyone's not playing a ton of basics. Taps colorless for Eldrazi. Yeah. Maybe in the blue-green Eldrazi deck we'll want 1 or 2. Doubt it. I'm guessing there's better you can play, but what does the white do? Same clause. White 2 tap. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a historic card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. Artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. So you can get your Urza Saga, you can get... There's some legendary lands maybe, artifacts. That one seems kind of good. Hammer. It's just awful with Urza Saga though. I don't think Hammer runs that. It's just too awkward. It's more like a slow mid-range deck like... I mean, I don't think Omnath can afford it. Like a deck like... It's more like a deck like Blue-White Control. Blue-White Control, like you find your Teferi. But is it better than a... Like, is it better than a castle? Is it better than... whatever other options you have? It finds the One Ring, it finds Planeswalkers. Yeah. Martyr, I was thinking too. Martyr, blue-white. There's so many good lands you can play. Is it better than Hall? Than Hall of the Storm Giant? It comes into play mostly on tapped. It's plains too. Hail lazy. Maybe give it a 5. Might see a bit of play and actually be decent in the deck that plays it. I retract. Alright, next. Shifting Woodland. Same clause, arguably the most powerful of the lot. Spike had it in his Broken Tier, which I kind of disagree with, but... Delirium, green 2, Shifting Woodlands, become a copy of target permanent card in your graveyard until end of turn. Activate only if there are 4 or more card types amongst cards in your graveyard. I just think the bar is just so high to put lands that only make 1 color of mana in your modern deck. Just so insanely high. And even though that card's really good, it's still like... How do you break it? Buried Alive, or... I mean, the best thing, one of the best things you can copy is Omniscience. Create with Sunken Citadel. Oh yeah. Have all your lands come into play tapped. Surely that helps you enable Delirium very fast, have all your lands come into play tapped in Modern. Yeah, I know you can't Buried Alive Omniscience, that's just 2 different statements. What's my top 5 of this set? Well, we're figuring it out. I did a video, a YouTube video, but my top 5's probably changed now. Just play Spelunking. Like, would any deck, existing deck, play that card as is? Maybe a Living Ends. Just Waker of Waves. Yogg, really? Would it? You already have Cauldron. How easily do you even get Delirium? You have some fetch lands, you have creatures, you have Grists, you have... I mean, you have some types, but how often do you actually have Delirium? 2 free? Okay. Classic 2 free. I mean, think about how many games you're going to lose because that land comes into play tapped. Think about that cost. Like all these like Blooming March, Shifting Woodland hands, or Boseiju Shifting Woodland, or... I don't know. I'm not a buyer. I'm not a believer. Also, maybe you play like one, maybe two, but for me, a broken. I mean, I feel like a card to be broken S tier, whatever, it needs to be like four of greatest card in your deck, build around, not like. I mean, then we're talking like more like Phyrexian Tower or something. I feel like it could be good in Living End, maybe though. Does Living End get Delirium? Living End gets Delirium very easily. Was Architect is 2, fetch land, free, and then. No, not that easily actually. Titan. Titan's probably extremely bad at getting Delirium, right? But Titan probably plays one. And then building around that card seems like a disaster just because so susceptible to graveyard hate. Yeah, I'm not a believer. What would people rate it? I mean, I'd still be willing to go maybe up to like a 7. Maybe the first copy or two will be like pretty good in your deck. Build around 8. It's terrible build around, I think. How are you trolling Marencio? 2 free. Alright, I'll give it a 6. I'm okay with giving it a 6. Tron deck? Triple green in your Tron deck? You trolling? Okay, does snow-covered wastes have any applications? I was wondering. I couldn't come up with an answer off the top of my head. Oh, I guess it's only double green, sure. Tron also very well known for getting Delirium. Okay, the Black Bolt is like terrible. Alright, controversial card next. I had it highest. I had it as my best card in the set in my YouTube video, but who knows. Ugin's Labyrinth. Imprint. When it enters a battlefield, you may exile a colorless card with mana value 7 or greater from your hand. Add a card taps for colorless. If a card's exiled with Ugins, you tap 2, and then you can tap it, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. So late in the game, you can back your spell to cast it if you want to, but then your land doesn't tap for 2 mana anymore. So it is a scary card, but the deck building restriction is somewhat tough. You do have Null Drifter, which is a 7 mana card, but can also be cast for cheap. It's also like just, could cast cards like the One Ring on turn 2 potentially. Green-black Reanimator Gorios with Persist, Pillage the Bog, Bubble, and Woodlands. That sounds pretty decent. Like a 2-color. That sounds like a decent build for the Woodlands. Does this going Tron? I don't think so. Tron just wants the Tron lands and some green sources. Tron's already good at making lands that make 2 or 3 mana. Crown says go straight into my new Tron build was divide by 0, getting mascots. Seju can destroy this land and the card exile. It can be risky, true. Yeah, I think I was way too high on that card. What are the best enablers? Probably Null Drifter and any Eldrazi. Because you probably want to if you're playing that card, you probably want to play Temple as well. But then if you're playing Temple, you'd rather have your 7 drops be Eldrazi than be a card like Karn. Yeah, I could also be playing Affinity. 2 mana on turn 1. Exiling, you could like pretty naturally play 12 7 drops. Is the Enforcer a 4/7 card, or 4 mana card, or a 7 mana cards? It's a 7 mana card. that same infinity of like. It's kind of nice with Urza Saga. You can go turn on Urza Saga, turn 2, imprint that, and make a token. And trigger Saga on turn 3. It's kind of a nice line. 12 enforcers. Oh yeah, you have the cycling one, so you have 16. What do you think about not printing a new card for burn? I got the god, but I agree they could have maybe thrown burn a bone. Since it's one of the cheapest decks and deck people play, but that has a bad win rate. Yeah, no, they could have. Isn't a Raptor a burn card? Well, yeah, Raptor's pretty good in the burn deck. Raptor and the gods. Could be worse. Oh, the burn, the one that costs 1 mana when it's... I forget the condition. Yeah, burn got a few cards. Nothing game-changing, I think. Maybe the Raptor. Declarate doing good. Barbarian Ring. I'm not a big believer on Barbarian Ring. Maybe if you're playing mono red, but you know. Alright, what are we rating the Ugin's Labyrinth? A 7? A little higher. 8.5. So far we have Nadu at 9, which is the highest rated cards. We have Kozak's Command at 8. We have a few 8s. Yeah, people decided Nadu was the best card in the set, and I was kind of talked into it. Kind of agreed. Card seems to have a lot of potential. 9, I think, is as impactful build around as anyone. Prize, I mean, the artifact decks, I feel like, you know, when you have a card that's like Force of Vigor that's legal, it's just so hard to like give a ton of credit to an artifact deck. But maybe the cards are good enough that you can overpower Force of Vigor and people still have to play that card. 8.5. Just so I can say I wasn't too far off when I had it in my best cards. Alright, let's do 8.5. Alright, what about Urza's Caves? Taps for colorless, free tap, sack, search your library for land, put into play, tap, then shuffle. Knowing that you have the new Eldrazi that kind of does that for the same mana. Obviously, this is a land, and like I don't think Tron needs that land. Maybe you play one. I'm not sure why you would play one when you could just get the Tron land right away. Coffers. It's just another colorless land that's like... Does anyone want that effect? Maybe other decks that we're not thinking about? Why would you want that effect? Yeah. I might not even rate it. I just don't think that card's going to see play, right? Hey Mark, feel that it's still banned? Yeah. Alright, I know I started not that long ago, but I actually need a quick break, sorry. I'll be back in a few minutes and then we can do